How's everybody doing today? Whoop, let me get down in camera range. You want a shot of my belt buckle? Probably not.
Good.
All good here.
Good to see you, John. And you're the only one that's not muted, so.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, August 2nd. Welcome to the weekly meeting of the Cary Rotary Club. Welcome to the friendliest club in District 7710. Glad you're here. He is here to offer our invocation and pledge.
Shall we pray? We ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us might feel our responsibility to Rotary, to our community, to our country, and indeed to all countries and people. Bless our fellowship today and bless this food and the nourishment of our bodies. In your service, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, through the oceans, right with all. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, Tim. If I could please ask our club member Aiden Jones to introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians. Aiden.
On Asper's guest. Yeah. Oh, you didn't. So this is Sally Fox.
Thank you, Aiden. Sally, welcome. Glad you're here with us today. It's good to see you again. We have a number of announcements here to make. I'm going to ask Kevin Peach, our club treasurer, to come up and share some words with us. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, President Rob. Those of you that don't know me, I'm Kevin Peach. I have the honor of being your club treasurer, and I'm sure you received an email from me earlier regarding some changes that we're trying to implement to streamline the treasury process here. If you're not aware, your club dues go to this, the Cary Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of Cary. Any charitable contributions, i.e. the chili dinner and the golf tournament, go to the Cary Rotary Charitable Foundation. If you have any questions, those are listed in that statement email that I sent out earlier today. We would ask that you pay online if you can. PayPal is easy, it's quick, it's 2 clicks and you are done. If we get most or all of our members to pay that way, our finances will be, I can't say 100% accurate, but 99.9% accurate. You pay by check, these things for our younger members like me that don't really use these things, you have to write these out, you have to mail them in, you have to make it up to the right entity, the right amount. It changes hands about 6 times, and when you do that, sometimes that happens. So we don't want that to happen. Let's try to pay online. There it is. Okay. And if you are paying by check, please make sure that the check is made out to the right entity. Again, the club dues are to the club, the charitable dues are to the foundation. And if you're paying through a corporation or your business, please just indicate who you're paying for.
And make sure you sign the check.
Sign the check, that is important.
You send them all the time and not sign.
There you go. So utilize the memo line, pay online if you can. And I won't bug you. Thank you.
Hey, being treasurer of our club is a big job. Kevin, thank you so much for stepping into that role. Really appreciate your work and thank you for those comments. Chris Walker. Chris Walker's here, I know. We have an event, there you are. Come up and talk to us about the golf tournament.
All right. Thank you very much, President Rod. Let me give you an update. We've got 72 golfers. I can use more. I can use singles. I can use foursomes. We also have, once again, our raffle for a set of brand new Michelin tires. $10 raffle ticket, 2 for 20. Either way on that one. Free for 30. All right, we keep on going on and on. You don't have to be present to win. You can pay. You can just come by. I've got tickets right now if you would like some. If you are planning on playing, just say I want to force them or whatever. I'll sign you up. I just want to get a final count because McGregor in a couple of weeks is going to want to know the final counts for us. And any questions right now other than that?
What's the date for this tournament?
The date is Monday, August 29th, 10 a.m. Shotgun start. It will be the second hottest day of the year. Trivia, what's the hottest day of the year? Lazy days. Got it.
Thanks to everyone who has already agreed to be a sponsor and has registered to play. Just so you know, we have ordered an especially cool day, despite it being the hottest day of the year. Jim Lovejoy, would you please come up to the lectern and speak to us about the Memory Cafe?
Yes, by tradition, the Memory Cafe is held every second Tuesday, except when the government wants us to vote in November, then it's going to be the third Tuesday. So second Tuesday is next Tuesday. Ron Stanton and Paul and I are the stalwarts there that come every time. We can always use extra help. It's 4:30 to 6. In fact, we have a sign up genius, so you can just sign up for setup, or you can sign up for cleanup, or you can sign for serving. But it's a wonderful event, and the people there that, especially the caregivers who are looking after somebody that has dementia or Alzheimer's, are really appreciative of having a night out, relaxed, safe. We serve them dinner, and we have entertainment. So anybody who would like to come see me or see Paul or see, what's his name, Ron.
And I know we have some folks who have already registered, signed up for Memory Cafe. We have a couple of slots still available. Is that right, Jim, for this month? August 9th, yeah. So please register for that. By the way, how many of you are receiving the email that goes out every Friday morning announcing this club meeting? Is everybody getting that? Okay. So hopefully you notice there, I'm trying to include links to registrations and that sort of thing. And the Memory Cafe registration link is in that email in case you missed it. Speaking of volunteer opportunities, Bill Fletcher, would you come up, please, and speak to us about the Reedy Creek Family Night?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, President. Rod, with a D, Rod. I've known the man for more than a decade, and I still want to call him Ron. The Read a Book, Get a Book program that the club has sponsored for many years is starting a fresh stint with Reedy Creek Elementary School. They've invited us to come and participate in an unusual Meet the Teacher night that they're doing more as a community building activity than we're going to be checking this and this and this, and your child needs to have this and this and this. It's going to be out of doors. And so they've asked us to set up a tent with some kind of activity for the students to participate in, to tell the community about the Read a Book program. And we're going to take the opportunity to tell them about Rotary Club and why they might want to consider participating in this fine organization as well. The idea is that we will have a game such as cornhole. You get to put a bag in the hole, and you get to get a book to take home with you, that kind of thing. We will be setting up the event Well, Gail Cabrera is actually in charge. I'm speaking for her at the moment. The event runs from 5:30 to 7 on the 25th of August. That'll be the third hottest day of the year. And it will be a lot of fun. We want to have several Rotarians there to greet people, to talk to them about read a book, about Rotary, just about having fun and serving in the community. Now, in preparation for that, we have also gotten a donation of books from the Dorcas shop. And I'm setting this in place for 2 weeks from today, that we as a group can look at these books and separate them into books that are appropriate for elementary children and books that are not. All right. And then we'll have another labeling activity to put on them as well, to identify that these books are gifts from the club. Those are the books that we will have available for the kids to win at Cornhole on the 25th. So 2 things, we'll promote more about doing the book sorting, whether it's before club or after club next week. And then the evening of the 25th, if you'd like to participate, I'm going to ask you to contact me or Gail Cabrera, and we will organize the group that's there to support it. Okay.
What time you start that?
Start the
6. What time you start? 7, 6, what time?
The event is 5:30 to 7. Okay, and getting there and setting up, we will be, I'm not sure what that schedule will be. It'll probably be 4:30 to set up. And then there'll be a tear down as well. All right. So any questions, see me or Gail or Darren. Darren's the co-leader of this group now, and appreciate his service. All right. Thank you very much.
Services Committee, and you all may recall during the installation bank when I mentioned that we have a goal this year to provide at least 1 volunteer service activity every month this year. Well, this year we have, in this month rather, in August, we have 3 you've heard about. So please take advantage of those opportunities. We have an exciting program underway. You've heard a little bit about this. You know, Rotary makes a difference in our community as well as internationally. I'd like to ask Paul Wazilkavich to come up and speak about the support that we're going to be providing to folks in Ukraine. Paul, come on.
Thank you, President Rod with a D. For those who don't know me, I'm Paul W. I started a project called Ukraine Aquatabs Project, cleverly named. And what it is a project where we collect money, we buy the Aquatabs, and Aquatabs it's a product, it's a little pill, like a baby aspirin that you can put in a cloudy 2-liter bottle of water, and it'll clean it up within a certain period of time. What's happened is Putin and Russia, they've destroyed a lot of the infrastructure in Ukraine. A lot of it is a water treatment purification plants. Now, we've got other projects, or I do, we're trying to rebuild some of those plants. But this is something that we as a Rotary Club can do along with other Rotary clubs and interested individuals. Our club was generous enough to donate $1,000. Cary Page did $500. Personally, I've raised about $840. So right now we got $2,340. We're still waiting from the other 3 clubs in the Cary area to let us know if they're going to help us, support us. And if they do, hopefully we'll have anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. And then mid-August, we'll go shopping, we'll buy the pills. And I've been in contact with the Rotary Club. It's called the Rotary Club of Dnipro City. Dnipro is the 4th largest city in Ukraine. And they need them, and they're excited about getting these pills. So as soon as we get our final tally, we'll ship them out there the best way possible. It's a war, so we'll be very creative in our shipping methods, but we'll make sure that they get it. So if you're interested as an individual also supporting this project, see me, and I'll send you a little thing I came up about the project itself. I'll be glad to send it to you. And thank you for your support.
Power of Rotary, and Paul, thank you for your leadership on that project. It's really wonderful. Let's see, a couple of things I wanted to mention. First of all, I just learned that our club member Dorothy Spellsites has been admitted to the hospital. So please keep Dorothy in your thoughts and prayers. I'd also like to share a letter that the club received from David Coulter at Dorcas Ministries. He writes, "Dear friends, thank you for your donation of $2,000 on May 25th, 2022 to Dorcas Ministries. Your thoughtful donation will be included in the Howard Manning Memorial Fund to honor the life and work of Dorcas's beloved executive director. On behalf of our clients, volunteers, staff, and board of directors, let me express our sincere appreciation. Through your generosity, we will continue to live our mission of providing compassionate assistance to area residents to empower people to become stable and self-sufficient. For more than 53 years, Dorcas Ministries has served our neighbors in need through financial and food assistance, job readiness and life skills classes, entrepreneur training, childcare assistance, and more. These programs, open to all area residents in need, are made possible with the assistance of many dedicated individuals and supporting organizations. Thank you for your support of Dorcas Ministries. Warmest regards, David Coulter." So this was a contribution that was made in honor of Howard Manning on behalf of our club, and thanks everyone. Good reason to make your dues payments on time, because that's the kind of things that we support. So our thanks to David for that. At this time, I'd like to invite Pat up to the lectern here to introduce our speaker. Pat.
I'm happy to introduce Loren Fisher to you today. He is the Assistant Director in Research Administration for the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at NC State. He's also Director of the Research Station and the Field Labs System at NC State. He received his bachelor's, master's, and PhD from NC State University. Prior to transitioning into research administration, he was a professor in the Department of Crop and Soil Sciences at NC State, where he conducted research related to tobacco production and management, and has authored and co-authored more than 50 research articles in his discipline. In that position, he was also responsible for extension outreach efforts for tobacco agronomy in North Carolina. Loren and his wife, Kristen, have two sons, Joshua and Jacob, who both graduated from NC State this past May, and they both have jobs.
They both have jobs as of yesterday. They both started their jobs yesterday. Unfortunately, my wife, this gone hard with her because the youngest actually started a job in Pennsylvania yesterday as an assistant superintendent of golf course. So, great job, but when the youngest is 400 miles away, that's tough on mom. So this is a tough week for her. But we're going to go up and see him this weekend. We gave him 5 days. And of course. But he only accepted that because we're bringing the other half of his stuff that he couldn't take. So I don't know if we can pull the slides up. How many people have been on a research station before at NC State? Oh, that's great. Yeah. So which ones? Oh, yeah. Sorry. I want to walk around. That's my habit. Can I take it out of the, or I guess I need to stand in front so folks can see me, but yeah, which research stations have y'all? Mostly Lake Wheeler, I'm sorry?
The dairy farm.
The dairy. Okay, so out at Lake Wheeler. Yeah.
Poultry science.
Poultry science out at Lake Wheeler also, I guess. Yeah, so we're going to learn about, everybody knows about Lake Wheeler. Let's see. Can you go back to the, one more? Yeah, now the next one. So we've heard that. I can advance it. That'll work. I usually like to start with why NC State does ag research, how we came into that business, and what makes us a land grant university. That's a term that a lot of folks don't hear very often. And there's actually 2 land grant universities in North Carolina, but there's one in every state. So what makes NC State a land grant university? Well, you have to go back to President Lincoln to maybe understand how that started. In 1861, and Congress, and at the encouragement of the president, gave federal land to every state to start a university for agriculture and mechanics education and research. Eventually, the research came and joined, but it was for training rural America in agriculture and mechanical arts related to ag. So NC State got their federal grant. Most states, sometimes they use that land it's actually where they put the university. A lot of cases like NC State, they sold the land to finance the creation of the land grant university. So what is a land grant university? Well, the pillars of that are in 3 areas. So obviously teaching was the original pillar, and that's what most universities do, right? But research and extension were the parts that the land grant mission added, those 2 legs. And I'd say extension is probably the unique one. So a lot of universities do research, a lot do teaching. The land grant universities are all required to extend the information that they learn out to the citizens who, in this case, the citizens of North Carolina. So that's the third part that we are funded to do and we're required to do as a land grant university in North Carolina. So the other land grant university is North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro. But, you know, it's interesting, I always mention this. Some states took their existing public university and added the land grant mission. So states like Georgia, for example, Florida did that. Other states created a separate university. So obviously UNC Chapel Hill, we have some alums of that university here. That was our existing public land grant university. They actually tried, I'm getting off subject here, but they actually tried to create the land grant mission there. And they said, no, that's not going to work. We're going to go a few miles down the road and create NC State University and that be our land grant. So sometimes I wonder what it would be like if we had one huge university that had the mission of UNC Chapel Hill and had the land grant mission too. Sometimes I think, well, we wouldn't have the competition that we have, and some would say there's not competition there anyway. If you look at state's record lately, and at least in basketball, but just think how much bigger that university would be and the system would be. But I just mentioned that because it kind of gives the background of why NC State does what it does and where that started. So really what that boils down to is, and I'm not going to spend a second on this slide, is, you know, we do the discovery, we do the refinement. That's typical of a research university. But we extend that into, that's our extension role, into application, delivery, and we see it through to implementation. So that's what on the ag side, what the College of Ag Life Sciences does. And what a land grant university does, that's a little bit different. So to do that, to do everything that we need to do, we have a huge research station system in North Carolina. Y'all are familiar with Lake Wheeler, and I'd say probably that's most of the facility there. And we'll talk specifically about what goes on there. But we have 18 research stations and another, depends on how you count them, 4 or 5 field labs where we conduct research in North Carolina. And we'll talk about why that's important in a minute. But you can see they're geographically distributed from the mountains to the coast. So we have research facilities geographically distributed all over the state. Now, the unique thing about North Carolina is not just the size of our enterprise, our research enterprise, the fact that we have 18 stations, which is one of the largest in the nation, but also that the North Carolina Department of Agriculture actually has the budget and staffs 12 of those 18 stations. So NC State staffs the field labs and 6 research stations, and I'll point out which ones those are in just a second. The North Carolina Department of Agriculture, our Commissioner Steve Troxler, has the budget and the staff for the other 12. So that's unique. It's a great system. It works well. The researchers on all the research stations are NC State faculty, sometimes NC A&T faculty, but mostly NC State faculty. But NCDA provides the staff, the support staff that do the day-to-day management of the research stations. So let's talk about each one quickly. So just to kind of give you the highlights. So Lake Wheeler obviously is owned by NC State, and you see that's not listed as a research station. That's listed as a field lab, and I think this pointer is not going to show up on there. But so that's in Wake County. I won't mention that, but Central Crops Research Station is the next closest one. If y'all been out now, Business 70, right on the Johnston-Wake County line, the Highway Business 70 splits that research station in half. That's owned by NC State University. That's a row crop, primarily a row crop research station, and some vegetable crops there. So that's the closest one next to Raleigh. But then you look at some of the others, and just to hit some of the highlights, ones that may be close by, we have a research station in Butner that does only animal research. And so it's all beef cows. So Butner is just sort of between Oxford and Durham, less than an hour away from here. That station actually has
to give you some size and scope, it's our largest in size. Between that and some land, some joint land that's owned by NCDA, it's a little over 6,000 acres. Where Clayton is 510 acres roughly, the Central Crops Research Station in Clayton. That one is pushing 6,000. But most of our stations are in that 800 to 2,000 acre range. So Clayton's one of our smaller ones, Central Crops is one of our smaller ones. Butner Animal Research is one of our largest at about 6,000 acres. It also had the Umstead, the Umstead Dairy at one point. So that kind of gives you a range. Our stations do try to specialize in certain crops. We don't do everything at every station. Like I mentioned, Butner's mainly an animal station. The research station we have in Reedsville, which you'll see on there, is the Upper Piedmont Research Station, is a mainly beef animal station. But think about geographically, like Laurel Springs, for example, the station that's just well, in Laurel Springs, North Carolina, the Upper Mountain Research Station, you see there on the top left. Christmas trees, obviously, would be a big research area there. We'll talk about how important that is in North Carolina. You've got the Mountain Horticultural Crops Research Station just outside Asheville. Tomatoes are a big part of what goes on there research-wise, but they also have other crops there. Piedmont Research Station, my home county of Rowan, near where I grew up. The Piedmont Research Station has row crops, but it also has our only poultry research that's outside of Raleigh, outside of Lake Wheeler. And it has a full dairy herd there. So they milk about 150 cows. They have about 500 to 600 total dairy cows there, but it's a dairy research facility. And then they look at other row crops that are produced there. And that just kind of gives you some examples. So why do we have so many research stations? Well, the beauty of North Carolina is that we are the third most diverse agricultural state in the nation, behind California and Florida. What that means is that because of our geography of our state, we can produce nearly anything that's produced in the United States, with the exception, we would be a great citrus state for obvious reasons. But because of our geography, we can produce a lot of crops, and we commercially produce over 90 different ag commodities in the state because of our geographic diversity. But if we're going to do research that's specific to the crops that can be grown in different climates in North Carolina, we have to have research stations to match those climates. And what I mean by that is we can duplicate with a research environment. We can duplicate an environment in Laurel Springs. I've been told it's very similar to Central Michigan. The climate in Laurel Springs is 3,300 feet of elevation at Laurel Springs Research Station. And we can duplicate South Georgia at our Horticultural Crops Research Station in Castle Hayne. We can duplicate that climate. And that's the beauty of North Carolina, I think, in terms of research, is the beauty and what gives us the diversity and all the different things we can produce, is that we have that climate diversity, but we also have research stations to support that climate diversity and do research on all the things that farmers may want to grow, already grow, that we can improve. And I think that's a big part of why we have so many research stations. And it's also a big benefit to our growers and to our farmers in North Carolina to support all the things that they can do that we can't do in other states. I think that's the unique thing that we see. But I think it surprises most people to see we have this many locations. Sometimes they're well marked with signs, but they're not on the beaten path in a lot of cases. You don't drive right by them. But we do have research facilities scattered all over the state, not just Lake Wheeler. Let's talk about Lake Wheeler for a second. I'll show you some more. That's the one you're most familiar with. Believe it or not, that's a field lab, not a research station. The majority of what goes on there is teaching. So that facility is used more for teaching than it is research. So we have animal units there. We have beef, poultry, chickens and turkeys. We have swine there. We have a dairy there. If you've had Howlin' Cow ice cream, the milk was produced at Lake Wheeler Road. A little over 150 cows milk there in a day, and they supply enough milk to support the creamery that's on site. They supply enough milk to support the milk that's consumed in our dining halls on campus, and actually enough milk to provide the prisons with milk. Not all the milk they consume, but we do provide any extra we have we provide to the prisons. So that's I think unique for that dairy facility. But the majority of the purpose of Lake Wheeler Road is for teaching. It's a jewel in our system to have that agricultural system in a place that close to campus that we can get students in and out in, well, it used to take 5 or 10 minutes. Now it takes 15 or 20 from campus, depending on the time of day, in and out of there and have labs and classroom instruction. We do have some row crops there. Believe it or not, it takes about 250 acres of land just to produce the feed, to feed all the animals that we have on those facilities and to support the vet school. So right now they're chopping silage. For those of y'all that know what silage is, you chop corn, green corn, that ear, stalk and all, and you put that in a silo and then over the next year you'll feed it to the dairy herd. So we support the dairy at the vet school with the corn that's grown out there, and the small grain that you see and the hay that you see produced. So that's not research corn. That's not research per se. The research is not on the grain crops that are out there. That is strictly to feed, or you see hay being made, that's strictly to feed the animals that we have on site. And it's a pretty good size operation just to do that. If you think about it, some folks say, well, could you have a better use of land than to grow 200 acres of cow feed or animal feed? The problem is we'd love to do that. We'd actually love to use that for something else. But where are you going to find and pay for 200 acres of corn to be delivered to weekly to a dairy herd in downtown Raleigh, essentially? Nobody's going to do that. If they would do it, it would cost 5 times what it would cost us to grow. So we have to produce it on site because there's so much bulk and so much volume. There's nobody within 100 miles that would consider it, even if they had the land, and then they'd have to ship it here if they did. So that's a big part of what you see at Lake Wheeler sometimes is supporting those educational units. The other thing that's interesting about Lake Wheeler, I think, and I'm going to have to move or I'm going to run on time, is you've probably seen the real tall building if you noticed in the back. We have a research feed mill. We're one of 3 programs in the nation that have a research feed mill. So what that means is we can make any blend, any type of feed for a research operation on campus, or even for some of the big animal integrators, so they can evaluate new research feeds. And that was something that there's only, I think Kansas is the only other state that has that capability. Now, let's get into maybe some more of the particulars. So by the numbers, there are 300 faculty in the College of Ag and Life Sciences, 300 tenure track faculty. Some of those have teaching appointments, some have research appointments, some have extension appointments, some have all 3. Very few have just one. So that's something I think that's interesting. The first question I get when I tell folks I'm a professor at NC State, they say, what do you teach? Well, if you added all the classroom time together that I've taught my entire career, it wouldn't be a week. And probably now, that's not to say that I don't spend a lot of time working with farmers, teaching people. It's just I do it out in the state with adults and not on campus with young adults. I should say, maybe it's a better way to put it. Sometimes just having 2 kids graduate from state, I know that's probably a stretch, but yeah, I do spend, I spend most of my time doing research, developing information that will be useful to a farmer, and then you spend the winter going out, doing meetings in the state, telling them what the latest information is, what the latest things are. So we took what I did on research stations, we took it to the farm. So 300 faculty in College of Ag and Life Sciences, 2,600 undergraduates. This will be near to your heart, Ms. Hudson. Probably we have 2,600 undergraduates. Probably half of those came to NC State and said, I'm going to be a vet. Obviously 1,300, we're not going to have 1,300 vets every 4 years. So veterinarians, so they end up in other majors. But believe it or not, about half our enrollment every year, that's their goal, is to go in animal science and be a veterinarian. It seems like, and some end up in that field. It's very competitive, as you know. Some end up in that field. A lot end up in other ag majors or in other disciplines. But I always joke that's our biggest enrollment as an undergraduate, but it gets folks in agriculture, and we're proud of that. I think the other thing that's surprising is we have 1,000 graduate students in our college working on ag and life science related projects. And a lot of that work is done on research stations. So like myself, my master's and PhD, I did every bit of my research on the research station. And that is when I say faculty work on research stations, well, a lot of days it's their graduate students who are there working. I think that's something that's really important for folks to realize. So what are the departments in the College of Ag and Life Sciences that do research before we talk about things that are specific? Well, when I say we do a little bit of everything in agriculture, we do. You can see the different college departments there. We have an agriculture and human sciences department. We have agriculture and resource economics, animal science, applied ecology, bio and ag engineering, which is not in the College of Engineering, by the way, but it's in the College of Ag and Life Sciences, even though they have a partnership with the College of Engineering. Crop and soil sciences, that's my home department. Entomology and plant pathology, food bioprocessing and nutrition science, horde science, molecular and structural biochemistry, plant and microbial biology, and then the precious Department of Poultry Science. So we cover it all at NC State in the College of Ag and Life Sciences, if it's ag related or life science related. So what type of research do we do? And I'll get into more specifics of that. The traditional row crops, all the ones you think about, cotton, corn, soybeans, tobacco, small grain. I'm leaving something out. All the traditional row crops you think about, all the traditional fruits and vegetables. If it's grown in North Carolina, we do research to support it. If there's potential for it to be grown in North Carolina, we do research to find out if it'll work. I'll give you some examples of that in a minute. Beef, dairy, poultry. We have research units. We have 3. I mentioned one of, the Lake Wheeler Dairy. We actually have 3 dairies in North Carolina, one outside Goldsboro, one in Salisbury, one here on campus. We have beef animals on about 6 different research stations out of that 18. And we have poultry at Lake Wheeler and also at the Salisbury Research Station. Specialty crops. That's the beauty of North Carolina being a diverse state in agriculture. We're always looking at new things. There's a real big, for those y'all that have ever had stevia as a sweetener, maybe there was some stevia in that in that artificial sweetener in your bowl there on the table. I didn't look, but most of that's grown right now, grown in the Northwest part of the United States. But there's a lot of promise that stevia can be produced in North Carolina. In fact, in some cases, it looks better here than it does in where it's been traditionally grown. So we're always looking at different things we can grow here and sell here, and that's one good example. And we'll get into some more examples here quickly in just a second. But I think I knew this was going to be too small to see, but I think it's important maybe to stress maybe the different things we do. If you look at, I'm going to walk off camera for a minute. If you look at where North Carolina is big, and I think this is I think important to know. Obviously, North Carolina has been a tobacco state for a long time. We still, it may be surprising to some folks, we still have about 150,000 acres of tobacco in North Carolina. We still have about a $500 million a year crop in tobacco. And it's still an important part of our economy, even though you don't see it nearly as much. Thank you. Even though you don't see it nearly as much as you did in the past, because it's not as many acres as it used to be. Sweet potatoes, that may be one that surprises folks. We grow about 2/3 of the sweet potatoes that are produced in the United States. And it makes us the #1 state for sweet potato production. We have about 110,000 acres of sweet potatoes in North Carolina. It's a lot of sweet potatoes. That's about a $400 million a year crop for us. I think the animal side of agriculture in North Carolina, that's 2/3 of our $10 billion farm sales value for the industry. That's why we do a lot of animal research, is because livestock, dairy, and poultry account for about 2/3 of our total ag economy in North Carolina. We're number 2 in total pig production. We're number 3 in turkeys. Number 3 in the nation, that is, in cucumbers, bell peppers. Number 4 in broiler production. We're actually #1 in the nation if you put total broilers, meat, total chicken production. When you put it all together, we're actually #1 in the nation on the poultry side. And I think that it's overlooked sometimes. Folks know about our home production, know about some of the other things we do. We don't realize that we're as big a poultry state as we are. We do research in those areas. We're number 5 in peanuts, number 5 in squash. That's of all random things, we're number 5 in the nation in squash. But you can kind of see, And then please interrupt me with questions as I know I'm talking fast, but there's a lot on the cover. But, you know, if you look at our what they mean to our state, the farm level sales of different things in North Carolina, $560 million a year worth of soybeans. We have to feed all these animals that we grow on. We may not be the best state in the world to produce soybeans. Yes, ma'am.
What about him?
Ah,
How many-
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
So hemp started out with the CBD market as a very hot market. And that market was quickly overwhelmed in production. And I think right now we don't have that much hemp being grown for CBD just because that market became saturated fairly quickly. What we're looking at now from a research standpoint is obviously supporting those farmers who want to continue to produce hemp for CBD, for the oil. But there is a growing market for the fiber. The problem is with the fiber is, you know, we think we can grow it here. It looks good. The research shows it looks good. But kind of like we talked about with silage, you can't afford to ship fiber. You got to have a plant that's going to take the fiber here and turn it into something. So we have to, that has to develop. Where CBD, you can turn that into something. What's marketable is a very small amount relative to the acreage you grow. Where fiber, it's pretty much an acre for an acre, you know, in terms of having to ship it. But you know, so CBD is not as big as it was a few years ago. That side of hemp, fiber is starting to grow some. The car industry, BMW, for example, I understand likes to use hemp fibers in their door panels because their fiber is a natural fire retardant product, and they, as a company, have traditionally done that. The other thing for hemp is for clothing, and we have the only textile college in the nation anymore, and there's a lot of interest in taking hemp fiber and making clothes. So you may see more hemp grown in the U.S. now. It's legal for the first time, and since, well, I guess, pre-World War II. So it doesn't show up on our farm income yet, but maybe one day, right? Maybe one day. I mentioned the research stations, I mentioned the geographic diversity, but I wanted to show you some pictures maybe. So this is, that's Waynesville, that's the research station in Waynesville, in the top left corner. Animal research, horticultural crop research, forage research there. This is some examples, but also, you know, you've seen Lake Wheeler, that urban interface with agriculture is so important to us and what we do, what we can do with students, and we're happy to preserve that land. The bottom right is a researcher named Rick Brandenburg. He works in peanuts and turf, believe it or not, and he's working in a peanut field there at the Rocky Mountain Research Station. So that's just between Rocky Mountain and Tarboro. So he's looking at some peanut insect issues, I think, in that field with his technician. Bottom left is Billy Flowers. He is one of our swine teaching and research professors. I like that picture because it shows how much he cares for the animals that he grows, that he works with. And that's on the Lake Wheeler facility there on the research station, and part of the facility, the field lab, I think. All right, so I think interesting things maybe to take home from what we do in our research stations. If you've eaten yes, sir.
During the aquaponic farming, I saw something
Yep.
about farm up in the mountains.
Yep.
And it looked very interesting.
Yeah, so there's all different combinations of we've looked at, NC State consistently looks at the integration of aquaculture, so for fish production and the integration of that with plant production. So the fish provide the fertilizer for the aquaculture system, produce plants, but also just general greenhouse production, whether it's in a hydroponic system or not, is a big part of what we do. I think if you look at the intensity of production, that's a great way to produce a lot of food. So the short answer is yes. If you've eaten a peanut at a ballpark, if you've eaten a peanut in a shell, it was a variety. It was a variety developed at NC State. Yes, sir.
How is the growth of North Carolina affecting the agriculture?
So, very good question. As you can imagine, the growth in population is pushing, I think, agriculture out of some counties. If you look at what Wake County had for in terms of ag, it was a big ag county in the early 90s. It's not anymore. Johnston County's seeing that pressure. I think also, outside of those two, relative to this area, you know, got the same issue in Charlotte, the same issue in Winston-Salem and Greensboro. It's pushing agriculture out into our more rural areas, out of some of these other areas. But we still have enough arable land to support what we need to grow. Yes, sir.
Is Lonnie Pool a research station?
It's not. That is a public golf course. They do now they do research at Lonnie Pool on a small scale, but a lot of the turf research is done at Lake Wheeler. You've seen the turf facilities there, not on a golf course. There are some individual things that our turf faculty do on golf courses around the state, but that it wasn't designed to be a research facility. We do that at the other.
And I'll ask the last question.
Yep.
Vineyard, wine vineyard is so big at the state. Are y'all doing a lot of research with grapes?
There is some. We have a person in horticulture that does research with grapes. Yep. Not to the extent that probably we could, but there is some. One last comment. I mentioned the peanuts. If you've eaten a sweet potato in North Carolina, if you've eaten an orange sweet potato anywhere, it was grown in North Carolina. It was a variety developed at NC State called Covenant. I think check out our Cows magazine. There's a lot of stories about the research we do. That's the website for it. There's a lot of stories about the research we do there. More things than I can talk about, but hopefully this was helpful.
Okay, that does it.
Yep. I'm done.
Thank you so much for coming today and giving us all this good information. We certainly have a better appreciation now of agriculture, the field, and what you're doing. These are notes that we're presenting for you that are designed by Jerry Miller. We wanted you to have as a memory of your visit.
Thank you.
To us. Thank you for coming.
And thank you very much, Mr. Miller. I have a lot of your prints. My wife, that was one of the first gifts she ever gave me was an NC State bell tower. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Loren. Thank you, Ralph. So in closing here, I have just a few additional announcements. First of all, unless I've missed someone, we have no birthdays that we're celebrating this week, but we do have a few member anniversaries. On August 5th, Charlie Konigsberg is celebrating 7 years in our club, and if I'm not mistaken, Charlie, 37 years in Rotary. Thank you for your service. Also on August 3rd, Ellen Poisson celebrates 1 year in our club, so we'll see Ellen soon. Wedding anniversaries. On August 8th, Sean and Nikki Chabra celebrate 26 years of marriage. And I didn't mention it earlier, but if there are any miracle moments, hold those till next week. We'll get to them. Thank you all. Next week's program, Vicki Adamson, who's Wake County Commissioner, will provide an update on Wake County's strategic plan. Bill Fletcher, thank you for arranging our speaker for next week. Next week's meal is fried pork chop with mashed potatoes, green beans, and black pepper gravy. Look forward to that. Our program in 2 weeks, Hill Karen, who is the Executive Director, will speak about the Summer World University Games. Bruce Howell, thank you for bringing Hill to us in 2 weeks. Let me thank you again, Dr. Fisher, for being here with us. I should mention that fighting hunger, alleviating hunger, both in our community and around the world, is one of our club's key areas of focus. And obviously, your work sits right at the heart of that. So we're really grateful for the work that you do, and thank you for that presentation today. I also want to thank Sally. Sally, thank you for visiting us again today. It's a pleasure to see you. Please come back. And with that, I'll ask past District Governor Tim Mannix to please come to the lectern and lead us out in the four-way test.
Things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned?